This is Real Talk for Real Life.
Hi, welcome to Elaine's Kitchen Table, where we talk about how to create better family, better health, better business, better self. And it was a no-brainer to have this guest that we're about to invite onto this podcast. And I'm very excited to share that my co-host today is Mr. Ron Comeau, my husband. Say hello, Ron.
Hello. See, I didn't say hello wrong.
I know you wanted to. Now, this guest of ours, is someone who he has no idea how his book called Essentialism totally changed the way I do things. And it was at a time when I really had a big wake-up call. This book, Essentialism, is actually the first book that I read while I was in stroke recovery. I had 7 months of stroke rehab, and my husband gave me this book and said I had to read it. And I cannot wait to share some of the truths that really kind of hit me like a brick wall and just changed my path. And I was on this freeway of thinking I have to do it all. I'm this mom, multiple business owner, crazy. I don't know. I'm definitely not a superhero, but sometimes I felt like I had to be a superhero. But that's something I want to share about what I learned and through this book. Ron is actually going to introduce our guest because he's just incredible. Ron, what would you like to say?
All right. Well, I think we just finished the interview, and it's going to be a great interview that you'll learn a lot. He basically speaks for himself, but like we said, his name is Greg McKeown, author of Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less, and a New York Times bestseller. We had a really long bio for him here, but I'll just give you the highlights. You'll hear that he speaks the delightful British accent. He's born in London, England.
Everything sounds better with the British accent.
Yes. He moved to America and graduated an MBA from Stanford University, where he now lives in the LA area with his wife and 4 children, who happen to be the same age as our 3 children.
Yes, between 11 and 17.
And that reminds me, I wanted to share a joke with Greg, but forgot the joke that Jim Gaffigan has about having 4 children. Said someone asked him what it's like to have 4 children. He said, imagine you're drowning and someone hands you a baby. So somehow Greg manages to be an essentialist with all that going on. He has worked with companies that you may have heard of, such as Apple, Google, Facebook, and Pixar, and Twitter, and etc. These are all companies that have brought him in to help improve their culture and become more essentialist. So without further ado, I think we'll get into the interview.
Yay! So excited. Oh my goodness. This is one of those moments where it's a dream come true that we have Greg McKeown on this podcast. Greg, welcome, welcome, welcome.
It's so nice to be with you. So nice to be with both of you. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yes, so it is a different podcast. Here's my husband, Ron. Ron, say hello.
Hello.
And I'm speechless, and I'm rarely speechless. And if I could take a moment where you say, okay, I have a bucket list, I have a wish list, and this is one of those moments when I don't know. I know you're listening and you think, okay, I've read some great books. I wish I could meet Oprah, or I wish I could meet, Amy Tan, well, I have always wanted to meet Greg McKeown. And I'm going to dig a little deeper here. We are just launching this new season of our podcast because it had been on pause. And some of you had wondered why. Why was it on pause? And I'm so grateful for you that you've been listening faithfully during this time of pausing of new episodes. But the reason is I had a stroke 2 years ago. So we just celebrated that anniversary, and 7 months of stroke rehab. I had the worst stutter. I still can cry at the drop of a pin. And I will say that the first book that I read during my Stroke Rehab was a book that my husband gave to me. I didn't know that, he's had this for a while because it's one of his favorites.
It's not the same as anyone else's story, but there's something similar in the story that you shared. But he had some things start happening to his hands, and here he is, a surgeon. Obviously he needs his hands, but he doesn't even have time to go and check it out. So what he needs to do about it. And they went on a long road trip, and while they were there, she read him the whole of Essentialism.
Wow.
As they're on this road trip, they make notes, and they just make sort of a couple of decisions they're going to do differently, 2 or 3 things. One is that he's going to actually start exercising. So he's going to protect the asset that's him, physically and spiritually and emotionally and mentally. Just put that first and not think that that's selfish. The second thing he does is he goes and he reaches out to work, and he says, look, I've got to start just working with only the customers that only I can work with, the patients that only I can serve. If someone else can serve them, let somebody else serve them. If somebody else in the office can help them, one of the other medical staff, it's got to be delegated. It can't be that everyone comes to me just because I'm wanting to serve and care. And then actually he negotiated, he was on the elders board of his church, and he renegotiated that too, which I think didn't go so smoothly because no one had ever done it before. No one had ever seen it as a discussion item and something they could counsel about. And so at first they thought something terrible must have happened to him, or he maybe wasn't worthy to serve or something. And so he had to know, it's okay, I just am trying to get my things in order so that I can look after myself properly, so I can look after my family properly, and that I can be a good surgeon sustainably. Well, that continues the way that they shared that story with me recently. I was interviewing them as part of a new podcast I'm launching on Essentialism, and as they were telling this, they were sort of interrupting each other. It was delightful actually hearing them all talk. And they said, well, what happened is that his business partner in the office suddenly, I don't know if he quit, but he gave just a month's notice, and suddenly all of those patients had to be served. And they said, if that had happened without these new changes in place, without this new plan in place, they said, this wasn't just life-changing for him. They both believe it was life-saving because of where he was at physically and mentally and so on before. Well, if I hear a story like that, or of course the story you just shared, of course it's humbling, but it also reminds me of the fact that most people are choosing non-essentialism, the enemy of our story, by default. They do not know they're using it. In fact, this surgeon said to me, I just didn't know there was another way to do life. I did not know there was another alternative. So he was down one path, not because he was choosing, that's the only path. That's life.
Wow.
And so I just love being part of initiating this conversation, one person at a time, to be able to say, look, there's a different way. You can choose a different life.
Wow.
One where you're making trade-offs between the stuff that doesn't matter and the things that only you can do, that are uniquely yours, your essential mission, something that, what you came on earth to do. And you can start making these trade-offs. So to me, this is what I'm so excited about with Essentialism.
I love how you just worded that, some people have no idea. I had no idea that there was another choice. And I think offline when we were talking just now, I was saying that even when I was in the hospital for 8-9 days, whatever it was, my physical body had changed because of the stroke, but my mindset had not, right? I was thinking, what did I think? I wasn't thinking anything else, but my goodness, this stroke is completely inconvenient, is what I was thinking. I was thinking I had this mass, this huge test order that I'm doing with one of the largest mass retailers in the United States. I was launching a book. I had 3 speaking engagements. I'm supposed to be at a nationals tournament in Edmonton with my 16-year-old daughter. I cannot be having this stroke. How am I going to do?
How am I still going to do everything?
Yes.
How can I do everything plus just deal with the stroke?
Exactly. It's that heart surgery portable? Can I do it like on the flights by YouTube? There's got to be a way. Right? We're resourceful. We can figure this out. But no, there is a choice. There is a choice. And as you were talking, Greg, I'm like, I need a t-shirt saying I choose essentialism. I will make it and I will send it to you.
I like it. Tell me more. What did you learn then? Like, what changed for you? I mean, that is a very powerful image of you being in the hospital. You just had a stroke. The body has all changed, but the mind hasn't changed. That's such a great description of something. Maybe we haven't, maybe everyone listening to this hasn't gone through exactly that, but we've had moments where reality changed, but our mindset's still trying to hang on to an old situation or old expectations, and we need to unlearn. So what did you unlearn and then learn?